Hi, guys. How are you today? Okay, as
Good.
promised, we've got Ronald Richards here. First of all, I just want to thank you, Freddie, for getting him here. And thank you, Ronald, for coming because we got a lot to talk about. Take it away,
Sounds
Freddie.
good.
But the thing is with Ronald is he's one of the best people to speak to online, whether it comes to reality stars, whether it comes, and Sharrell and I combined, we've spoken to a lot of people. Ronald's always one of the most interesting people. He's not fake about things. He's just very honest. So I think between the both of us, Ronald is always worth our time. So from me as well, a massive thank you, Ronald, for being here.
No problem. It's always good to get to the facts. You guys know it's like family being on this show. It's one of my first shows I ever did, even before I was appointed. And I answer always the questions calmly. These are very easy things to respond to. And I'm always appreciative that we can just clear it up. And if it doesn't make sense, just ask me. I'm not defensive about anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why we both really love you and appreciate you so much. But I think I want to get on to the main question. And that is, it's no secret that Jay Edelson has had a few things to say. So what really is the case of what happened to you and why you made the choice to decide to withdraw from the Girardi case?
Yeah, well, let me go over a couple things. It's ironic because there's a contempt trial in Chicago that's going to start in 2 weeks. So the judge just in the last day said he doesn't want any witnesses talking. And Edelson's a witness, so I don't want to take advantage of the fact that he's kind of muted. And I don't want to have any more bickering because it's all about the victims. But let me just tell you, my firm was on a contingency fee basis, and we had a strategy on how to get Erika to voluntarily pay some money back to these people that have been victimized by her. And so on October 4th, there all of a sudden I saw, without any prior warning, a motion for relief from stay filed by Edelson's firm to basically get permission to continue on a lawsuit that's going on in Chicago for accounting, to basically find out how much does Erika possibly owe if they had a theory of recovery. And there was another cause of action called a constructive trust that's been stayed by the court there, meaning that they can't get any money under their present complaint because it interferes with the bankruptcy. So as everybody knows, I don't get paid, and I've worked the hardest on this, unless we collect any money. So I didn't really want anybody else to now drag Erika. It's not unique to Edelson. I wanted to get her a global settlement here so she could be done with this entire process, because she's not going to pay if it's like one lawsuit after another. So hopefully that makes sense, right? Gotcha. No one's going to settle and then get another lawsuit. So when that lawsuit was filed, so everybody understands, I don't do anything unless I'm directed to do it. It's not the Ronald Richards show. I represent a client, but this is not my only case. So I don't have to do everything that everybody wants to do. If I'm not thrilled with the strategy, I'm allowed to get a viewpoint too, because I'm kind of a partner in the case, meaning I'm putting up all the money. My staff, all the lawyers that work for me are working basically on a contingency, as everybody knows. And so we decided, I was asked basically to assist in an opposition to the motion for relief from stay. I never filed the opposition. On October 19th, the trustee's lawyer filed the opposition, and I filed a declaration. Basically, the opposition said, we don't want Erika to go to Chicago because the case should just have one person prosecuting her here for accounting, and we're already doing that. So I thought this is the end of it, that they would see that the trustee opposed it, and they would see that, of course, Erika opposed it. And we then got into conversations where I was hopeful if they looked at the accounting, they would see there's not like a direct check from their attorney settlement to Erika, or from the Boeing settlement to Erika. I was hoping it would go away. And I never anticipated, and again, I'm a big boy and I can get hit hard and hit back. This is a full contact sport. I never anticipated that I would be embroiled and have my integrity attacked on something as silly as opposing a motion that I never opposed, but assisting in opposing it because that's what I was told to do, and then accused of somehow colluding or collaborating with Erika. Because I want everyone to understand, on October 21st, everyone, including Erika, signed a stipulation, and Erika's lawyer filed it to put it over till November 16th. And I was in court that day on November 16th. That was going to be the hearing date. But we were hopeful that there wouldn't be a hearing and that they would just kind of review the records and drop it. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, I called them and I wrote them, not for Erika, but because my client was opposing the motion and I was helping her lawyer. So that's very normal. There was nothing. The fact that Erika and I are both opposing the same motion doesn't mean I'm talking to Erika. Okay, let's be really clear. I've never met Erika, never spoken to Erika, but her lawyer and I have a very good relationship because I'm suing her in another case. So I think, Freddie, you commented on this last week. You get more with honey than with vinegar. And I don't need to scare her lawyer or threaten him. You guys saw me blast Erika for months and months and months. That had an end of life expectancy here. We were now in the cooperation stage to get a voluntary settlement. That doesn't mean I'm supporting her. I'm trying to get money out of her. And have you ever asked your parents for money when you're growing up? If you have the nice face, you get money a lot easier than the mean, scary face, right? So
yeah,
this is the strategy. So
I can relate to that.
Yeah. So what happened is then Erika opposed. She filed her own opposition, which then we retweeted, which had all sorts of concerns about these fee sharing agreements. I'm done bickering with Edelson because he's not my opposing counsel anymore. At the time, he was my opposing counsel for my client who was opposing the motion along with Erika, and Thomas Girardi's trustee also had a limited opposition. So that was the stage we were dealing with. In the reply brief that was filed on November 9th, all of a sudden this crazy allegations that I'm working with Erika. I mean, look, I laughed it off because I thought no one would believe it. Now, after that was filed, there was a difference in strategy. I kind of like to fight the motion to the end and let the judge rule, but I'm not the client. So there was a difference in strategy, and that's in the public filing of the trustee. You'll see it if you just look at the docket. That's what happened. And so basically, we just finished the case. We signed a voluntary substitution, and I'm going to be filing another pleading. You guys will see soon. We're getting along fine. That firm that the trustee works for, I do a lot of business with them. They represent many different clients and interest I have, and there's no acrimony. This just sometimes you need to move on. I can't sit on a case now for another year. I'm helping the new special counsel. I'm in a very good position to help them. And you'll see the estate will never be penalized. We'll split up our fees based on my original contract, and I'm going to help him. And that's it. So there's nothing else to talk about. And by the way, if I got fired, I would just say I got fired. Who cares? Clients, sometimes I want to be fired. In fact, I have another motion with a client where I was fired and I immediately had them sign a substitution of attorney and told the court I'm fired because I didn't want to have to withdraw because it was a difficult case. So you should understand, lawyers love to get fired sometimes if their client isn't doing what they want to do. And so this isn't bad. It just is. It's life is being a lawyer. And I don't know, there's nothing more I could say. So if you have any questions on that, I have nothing against Edelson. If he finds a pot of gold, victim money that I missed, I'll be the first to say it. I doubt it, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm supportive. I want him to find some hidden money that I never found, but I don't think it's there.
I'm so glad, Ronald, that you came on in person and cleared that up. Sometimes these rumors just get out of control.
They get out of control, and it's not, everyone likes to speculate. And don't forget, I have another lawsuit against Erika. I get all the discovery. I'm still working it. But Erika's not my only goal in life. I mean, she's not a really good, think about it. I know she said she wants to date again. I mean, she's a big liability. I mean, she was spending $2 million a year of Girardi's money. Who can afford her? I personally can't afford to go after only Erika. I have paying clients that I need to represent and handle. So she's not my only mission in life. I do love educating you guys and talking about all the cases, but that's for fun. And that I did long before Erika. And, you know, she tried to get me removed twice. And by the way, we filed a stipulation to dismiss that appeal. So the judge's findings that I have a right to come on your show and Up and Adam and other shows will be permanent now. And that was another thing I wanted, is to have a written opinion that's final. And that was important to me because I didn't like that I was trying to be chilled on a case without a gag order.
I love that.
Yeah, no, that was the vibe I got, because Jay Edelson was trying to make out by you coming on Sharrell's World and, you know, other YouTube channels that you were essentially a clout chaser. And he was basically trying to imply, from what I understood, because of the fact that he seemed to have an illegal fee sharing agreement with Girardi Keese, that he thought, okay, well, I'm going to go for Ronald because he and Erika and her lawyer are saying the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on social media and I'm going to imply that Ronald is somewhat colluding with Erika, which evidently doesn't seem to be the case whatsoever.
I mean, there's no evidence of that. Sharrell pointed this out, and so do you. I would get in legal jeopardy if I started switching sides. That doesn't work that way. You can't. Everything I did is approved. If you don't like my style, change lawyers. You know, I'm okay with that. I don't need a case, and I did what I was told to do, and then it was decided to do something different, and it's not my case. I'm protected, and I've seen like nutty things. I once saw a third-year law student trying to analyze what I did. I mean, when you're a lawyer for almost 30 years, get a career before you're going to analyze my career, you know, and don't think so ridiculously that I'm switching sides. I mean, I'm allowed to talk to the other side. I'm allowed to call up Edelson and say, withdraw the motion. That's what lawyers do. I'm allowed to be civil to my opposing counsel. But again, I'll repeat it if people just came in. I have never met Erika, never spoken to her, would never take anything from her, would never represent her for many, many reasons. So I may buy her house. I may do that. And I'll invite you guys over for my party. I'm serious about that.
House party with Ronald Richards.
Yeah, but I'm not interested. You know, I'm not going to go off. I don't want to be chilled. I like this type of media. It attracts a different market. Most your viewers are not watching David Muir on ABC World News Tonight. They're watching you. And I listen to the people talk, and they like having this type of format. So I'm supportive of it, and I'm not going to get off of it. And if you ask me if the judge had said you have to stop coming on shows or give up the case, I would have given up the case. And I put that in my papers. I'd rather not do this if I can't talk about the case. And as Sharrell, you pointed out, I was up against a media savvy woman that has, 2 million IG followers, 500,000 Twitter followers. The only way to get her to comply is to attack her brand. So what people don't realize is suing her does not scare her because someone else is paying her legal fees. Going after her brand and scaring that Bravo may tank her, that was my tactic. And it worked because I got full cooperation from her. Not because we're collaborating, but because I made these motions so terrible. They were tired of the of all the horrible, things I would say about her, and they basically started cooperating, and that's what I wanted. So we're not burning up fees, and I don't want to waste her fees. So that's what happened here. And I got everything I wanted. If you'll notice, she answered my first amended complaint. So that complaint was filed and there was no motion to dismiss. And we were supposed to, at the last court hearing, basically set some dates if we didn't settle the case, for discovery and then get a trial date. And that's been pushed off to December 7th. And it's funny because after that appearance, the moving party that started this whole thing with attacking my integrity, he was tweeting like a firestorm. And I love all my followers, and his followers were yelling at him saying, "You're acting like Ronald Richards now. You're spiking the football." And I knew this was going to happen because, I don't have the pressure of being on the case. Now I can say whatever I want. I was actually restrained because I knew that I didn't want to feed into the arguments. And this thing about screwing up a jury pool is laughable. There's 13 million people in LA. We're not screwing up the jury pool with our couple 100,000 followers. That doesn't mix up a jury pool. You have to be, complete media saturation. So it's all good. And again, I don't want anybody to leave your show without a question answered about my integrity, my lack of involvement with Erika. So I don't want to hear tomorrow that, they forgot to say something. I want to clear it up once. Everybody's getting along. I wish Edelson the best on his pursuits. He's going to see that it's not that fun suing Erika when, and it's going to delay things. I don't think it's the right decision, but he'll do what he wants to do. My trustee and I and that firm and the new special counsel, if he gets appointed, we all get along well. We're all working for the victims to try to get some money. That's all I'm trying to do at this point, and I'll still do it. And everybody's professional and mature. But also realize too, Freddie, I can't go tit for tat because I did have restrictions as the lawyer. Like I can't respond to Edelson. I wasn't allowed to file what's called a surreply brief. So after he filed that last paper on the 9th, the rules don't allow me to come back, and then I was removed from the case. Now, if I was allowed to finish, I would have been at that hearing with smoke coming out of my ears, and I would have really defended myself. Unfortunately, in the world of law, if you're off the case, it's irrelevant. They withdrew the opposition. The motion went against Erika's lawyer, who didn't do so well in court, and now the case is going to Chicago, and we'll see what happens. I love that Maddie Cullen says, "I'm with Erika. Don't trust him," on the comment. What evidence do you have that I'm working with Erika? I represented her opponent. I am still representing her opponent. I cannot team up with Erika. It's almost crazy that people would think that. And I don't know what else to say. So I'm just going to not say that.
There is nothing more to say.
What else can I say? Why
there's nothing more to say.
The other side. You guys know enough about lawyers. I can't switch sides, right?
Yeah, right.
And there's no backdoor settlements in the bankruptcy court. It has to be an open court, and then everybody gets to object. So there's no such thing. It's a fantasy. So if anybody wants to, you can, I'm here to answer any questions on that before we get into other subjects. But hopefully this is crystal clear for everybody.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's exactly why Sharrell and I found that was so crazy, because there was no evidence that was truth to that. But I wanted to clarify one thing, and that was, so from reading off your Twitter, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you said that you were just pursuing the state case, and so you're pursuing the state case, and that obviously there's a different attorney that's pursuing the other stuff. So if you're pursuing the state case, so what does that involve?
That's just two other victim attorneys that they actually had real fee agreements signed by the clients. Their fee agreements are bulletproof. They did it correctly. I'm not saying Edelson did it incorrectly. I'm just saying that I've never seen any fee agreements signed by the Boeing clients. However, in this other case, we have the correct fee agreements that are code compliant, and we are with respect to those fee agreements, Girardi stole the settlement, just like he did with Edelson's fees. The same sort of thing. So we have a case against some of the attorneys that are involved in the Edelson case, and some that aren't. And we have a case against Erika because we contend she knew that there was these lawsuits going on and she assisted Girardi in spending the money. We have a different theory. It's only based on her conduct. Everything else goes to the estate and the trustee. This case was disclosed when I was appointed. If I wasn't going to be allowed to stand this case, I would have never turned on my clients that trusted me before I got appointed. I would have not taken the Girardi case, but it was because we had permission from the judge, and it's part of the remand order going back to the state court that we're not touching any transfers to Erika. That belongs exclusively to the estate. It's only if I could show she did something wrong and assisted her husband in breaching the fiduciary duty he had to these lawyers who were his partners on the case, then we could maybe get her for some damages. I'm hopeful that the new special counsel, if he gets appointed, we work on a global settlement after the Chicago case is finished. Until that's finished, this thing's going to sit on ice for a year. Nothing's going to happen until that is finished, because no one's going to settle with me or anybody else if they don't know what the end game is.
I wanted to move on to Jay Edelson's supposed illegal fee sharing agreement, because there's been a lot of talk on that. And what I think what the viewers want to know is, what are the consequences for Jay Edelson for having a supposed illegal fee sharing agreement with Tom Girardi and Girardi Keese?
Well, without getting too technical, if some court somewhere said that they can't have a direct interest in the money in their fees that went into the Girardi Keese trust account, they would have no property interest in those fees, and then they would just have to bring what's called a quantum merit claim against the estate only. Even if those fees were embezzled, it would unravel that theory. But at this point, it's just a consequence that their theory of recovery will be limited to the estate, and they won't have as great a case on their fees. They're not representing any clients in the case at all at this point. This is just about their fees, which they've indicated even if they collect anything, they're going to return it to the Boeing victims. But to me, a lot of that is kind of circular, because you're not going to step in front of the $25 million receivable that we have on the books of Girardi Keese. And I believe that the new special counsel, with my support, is going to get a settlement. That the evidence is very good on that once the other stuff calms down.
Having read through the court documents, it seemed to me that Jay Edelson was trying to pursue a case to try and get his $2 million fee. And now he's sort of trying to claim that he's like some charity / voluntary worker. I was sort of wondering what your thoughts were on, do you think he's still trying to pursue getting this $2 million? And if so, if he is, do you think he'll be successful in attaining that?
Well, it depends on who. I mean, he's been successful against the lawyers that were actually involved with the agreement that they made with him, and they have a contempt case coming up in 2 weeks, and then there are also defendants in his civil suit. Against Erika, it's going to be harder because, one, he's only suing her for accounting right now, not even a monetary claim, and two, Erika may not even have personal jurisdiction in Chicago. It's not like she went into court there for the law firm. He's just suing her because she was Girardi's wife. And everybody always says he discovered the $25 million. That's not true. He got that from another lawyer who I'm very good friends with, who put that in a pleading in California for one of the lenders. I was the one that actually tracked down and figured out, was that allegation backed up by any evidence, and which is not in the court file. I got the declaration from the lender's custodian of records, which showed why they assumed Erika had a $25 million receivable on the books of Girardi Keese. Then as special counsel, I tracked down how that all came about. I've really done everything I can do anyway. I mean, there's no dispute. Erika got $25 million worth of expenses paid, period. It's all in the public file. So I don't know. I mean, everyone always asks, what happened to the money? The answer is really simple. She spent it. Have you ever had a spouse spending 200 grand a month? I mean, who's that rich? She likes to spend money. She spent all of his money. He gave her most of his money. 25 million after tax dollars is a lot of money for a lawyer, even a successful lawyer. So that's where we're at. Edelson will have to prove that his fees are not, that he has a direct recovery because his fees were embezzled. He'd have to show it was traced to Erika, and he'd have to show that he has valid fee agreements signed by the clients. I don't know if he's going to go 3 for 3. I hope he finds something better that I missed. I'll be the first one to congratulate him. Again, I did a thorough investigation. I don't think I missed anything, but I'm rooting for him to find victim money, not against him.
Yeah, good. That's great.
Notwithstanding the invectives and the spiking the football and the personal attacks, I'm much bigger than that. I have no interest in coming across like I'm rooting against someone that wants to spend firm research. Now, you do need to appreciate he got out in front of it, but those victims, if they knew he was his lawyer, may blame him for not getting their money. Why wasn't his name on the check? So, I mean, he got swindled by Girardi, but, he didn't sit around and do nothing. He did something about it. But, I mean, we don't know the motives or why the motives are there now. It's just that we only rely on what he says, but there's nothing in a court document that says he's never going to get reimbursed. But I take him at his word that he's not going to do that. But that's where we're at. I mean, he's not a factor here. He's honestly a capped fee of $2 million of maybe money. The real money is in the Girardi Keys estate, and it's not Erika, by the way. Erika, if we were relying on Erika, we'd all be in trouble. It's all the settlements from the gas company, all those things that you see on the docket every day of her settling the cases. That's what's going to pay the victims. This Erika thing, I think she called me because she saw me reporting on it. She knew I would blow her up on social media. That's what I believe. I'm guessing. That's not from anything she's
I agree,
told me.
because you're following.
They invited me to do this. I didn't solicit this because they thought, just so you understand the backdrop, which people don't know, the trustee is suing Thomas Girardi's trustee special counsel, Boris Trezon. They're in a heavy lawsuit. And to basically thumb his nose up at my trustee, they appointed Boris as special counsel. Why? He's a defendant in the other case. So then I was then miraculously invited as the counterpart special counsel. There's a lot of politics and things that go on. Probably not what I'm used to. I'm used to representing individual people that aren't afraid of what the government may do, what other people may do. So I appreciate everybody has a lot of decisions and hats. And I just want to move forward and help the special counsel get money for our fee agreement that we're sharing and get him up to speed. And he may do nothing. Hopefully, Erika will clean up her Chicago case, come back here and settle and start paying these victims back some of this money.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there are sort of also allegations, allegedly, I'm going to say allegedly, that Erika is chasing after 2 Vegas casino owners. But the question I wanted to ask you was, but this is allegedly, this is what I'm hearing on the sort of the YouTube, the reality TV streets is, but your question, Ronald, I had to ask you is, why has the bankruptcy court now granted Edelson motion to proceed against Girardi? And the other thing relating to that is Edelson is sort of requesting an independent prosecutor to investigate the Tom Girardi fraud. And, is he entitled to that? And do you think that the court will grant him that?
Okay, the first question, why did the bankruptcy court grant the relief from stay? Well, the trustee pulled her opposition the day I withdrew from the case. And you could probably, if you know my personality by now, if you have me go to war for you and then you want to switch and turn the boat in another direction, that may not work with me potentially. You know, I mean, you're going to put my neck on the guillotine and then make a deal with Edelson, who's been attacking me. I may personally not go along with that. I'm not saying what I would have done. I mean, it wouldn't shock me to think there's no way Ronald Richards is going to go along with this. And that's okay. It's not my case. You do whatever you want. You're the client. Even if it's disloyal or makes me look bad, I don't care. I mean, everyone that's an attorney knows I'm protecting you. If it has to be that way, then great. Maybe not. I would have handled it in a different way, but that's okay. So with respect to the other question, the judge granted the motion because there was no opposition except for Erika. He doesn't care what Erika has to say. And the judge is figuring, let the Chicago judge decide if the fee agreements and all these other arguments, you know, are valid. I'm not going to waste my time. It's not before me. This lawsuit's not before me. It'll rise and fall on its own 4 feet. As far as the appointment of a state bar prosecutor, I mean, it should be clear that Edelson is not a member of the California bar at all. He's a member of the Illinois bar. And, I mean, I'm not going to comment. I'm a member of the California bar, and I like self-preservation. I'm not going to comment on what the state bar should do. Yeah. I don't like a suicide mission. Yeah. In fact, I love the state bar. That should be my view. Did the state bar disappoint the public as the public has spoken? Yes, they have. But I mean, there's no such thing, frankly, Freddie, as I've ever heard of as a special prosecutor for the state bar, because the state bar investigates all attorney misconduct. And I guess what he's saying is they're not going to go after, you know, the other attorneys on the case. I mean, they're W-2 employees. You know, Chris Kamen, the CEO that took the fifth, he should be going after, but he does not under the jurisdiction of the state bar. The accountant is not under the jurisdiction of the state bar. Other people, you know, there has to be a complainant. I don't know if anybody complained on those other lawyers, you know, yet. I mean, the state bar has a lot of things to do, but yes, the state bar did not do a good job, obviously, when it came to Girardi, because this was all going on. And now all lawyers are going to have to suffer the consequences of potentially audits and all sorts of other draconian measures that I don't think is fair to every lawyer. I mean, every lawyer knows the obvious. When the money comes in for the client, you immediately give the client their money. Like, you don't hold it, you don't invest it, you don't give them the runaround. It's not your money. Even if you're cutting my finger off, I'm not giving you my money. That's the client's. I'm telling you, you'll have to cut my finger. I will not touch that money. It's not mine. And like most lawyers, 99% of lawyers, like, you know, not to rob a bank, know that by taking the money out of the trust account, when it's client money, you're robbing a bank. So I don't do that. No, most lawyers don't do that. What Girardi was doing was insane.
Yeah, crazy.
Atypical. So, and you don't need to have a reaction now to punish every other lawyer, where typically this doesn't happen. Typically, millions of dollars of settlements go into accounts and clients get paid promptly, because that's good business. And and every lawyer knows the minute that client money comes in, they get paid the money. And that, I mean, it's like the most cardinal golden rule. Yeah. Give their client their money quickly.
I thought that was an unspoken rule, but maybe not.
It's so obvious. That's why this is nuts. He's talking about investing money for the Rugamese victim. I mean, that's why I like going on these shows, because if someone's listening to me and their lawyer hasn't promptly dispersed a settlement, they're going to say, I heard Ronald Richards, and this is crazy. Like, I'm going to the state bar. I'm calling the police. Like, you'll know right away now if there's a settlement, the lawyer says something stupid to you, like, hey, do you want me to invest it for you? You'll call the police. You'll know something's up. Like, but we will educate, you know, the public, because that's why I like going after these type of lawyers. That's why I was going after Girardi, because he would always threaten lawyers with defamation if they commented on his civil actions. And when I started commenting on it, I was just like, bring it on, Tom. Sue me. I'd love it. I want to be sued, because you're going to, you know, the truth is a defense and your conduct is reprehensible.
Yeah.
And then I started talking about Erika, because she seemed to be very insensitive to what was going on. And then I got appointed on the case by invitation. But it's not going to change anything. I'm now relaxed that I can comment on all these cases and not worry about Erika's lawyer filing another disqualification motion to shut me up. It's just a waste of my time. I don't think he was. I think he was going to dismiss the appeal anyway, but now it's dismissed. But it's like I've ran this thing to the ground, and I have a big file of goodies that we will hopefully utilize to get her to pay some money. She is not going to pay $25 million at all. That's just not going to happen. She doesn't make that kind of money.
You don't think so? Well, yeah.
How's she going to do that?
Yeah. You're right. Wow.
I mean, her apartment's $9,500 a month. She makes, let's say, 50, 60 grand an episode. You got agents, taxes, business managers. I mean, it gets whittled down. And I just want a payment plan so that we get money to save. But that's not going to move the needle for the estate. Optically, it will make everybody feel better, including myself, that this woman who spent $25 million, some of it may have been wages for Tom, but most of it was money from settlements and lenders. And it's time for her to contribute to this process. And I was hopeful she was going to do that until we got sidetracked with this new lawsuit that I never thought was going to make its way to California, because there was already a default, by the way, taken against EJ Global, which is another headache that I'm going to have to hope doesn't prejudice the victims here in the estate here, because now she would have to vacate the default against her company where all this money went. In Chicago, they already have a default. But I mean, I guess the worst case scenario is it's a $2 million problem for her. That's what they're capped at, $2 million.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, I wanted to, Jen Shah released a trailer for her upcoming documentary, and I saw you.
No, Hulu released it.
Hulu. Yeah, Hulu. I'm sorry. And you were in it. Freddie.
I was? Was that me?
Yeah, that was you. I was like, there's Ronald.
I mean, we'll see. I
excited.
I got in trouble once by ABC for commenting on a YouTuber's channel about Jen Shah before the release date, even though I wasn't under contract. And they were really great because I said, we're just helping young media. Nothing I said on there. It's not like the viewers of Hulu are watching the YouTuber's channel. But after that experience, I like to wait till something's released. But if there was a lawyer that looked like me, it could have been me. It could have been.
Sorry. Go ahead, Freddie.
Well, okay. We'll move on to the Jen Shah questions, and then at the end, I'll ask you the two big Erika Girardi questions.
Okay, I hope I can answer them. I'll have to think about them.
Going on to Jen Shah. So Jen Shah's assistant, Stuart Smith's hearing has taken place today. He indicated he is going to change his plea to guilty. So what happened with that today?
Oh, I'm telling you, this was one of the most significant moments in criminal housewife defendant history. It was like I remember the day when I found out that Sammy the Bull Gravano was flipping on John Gotti. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember that.
I remember
that was like the biggest day of my criminal defense career, was when all of a sudden the Teflon Don was going to not win anymore, and Bruce Cutler was off the case. So I've been saying for months that Jen Shah is that Stuart Smith's going to flip on Jen Shah. And the reason why I knew is when they were setting the trial a couple months ago, Stuart Smith's lawyer said, "We're not going to go to trial, Judge." And I said, "Oh, really? Well, what are they going to do? Go to Vegas?" I mean, they're, made no sense. And then I started tweeting, "Oh, he's flipping." And I've been waiting and waiting. And then I saw the judge set a hearing for today, but it wasn't on the calendar. So I was like, oh, we're trying to get cute now with the public. But a lawyer knows these little tricks. So it was on the docket, but not on the public calendar. So no one knew about it. So
yeah.
what?
Especially as Stuart allegedly, from what I'm pretty sure I read from the court documents, he put his house up as collateral.
Yeah. But on the docket, they made it look like just a vanilla hearing, not like something called a change of plea. They didn't announce that. So I didn't want to report that it was a change of plea until I got confirmation. So, of course, I was blowing up every phone that I could utilize till I talked to somebody that would admit, it's kind of hard to do because they're like, well, who are you? What are you calling about? I say I'm a lawyer, but I'm not on this case. Then why do you want to know? Like, it's interesting, the dynamics. But I was finally able to get someone to say, yeah, it's a change of plea hearing. So then I blasted that out, knowing that was going to make big news. And then, of course, he could come in and it could be a letdown. And he says, I'm not ready yet. But then, of course, the judge called the case and he went and did all the things I tweeted about. And, if you followed it, it's at Ronald Richards. I tweeted 2 series of connected tweets for everyone to watch the transcript of what was going on. But it was a great change of plea hearing because the government really stuck him to some serious charges. And the plea agreement, the judge was reading it, so you knew it wasn't dropped onto the docket, which, of course, because there's a cooperation provision in there. That's why. So everybody was, for the audience, they were playing cute and loose, but the lawyers listening knew what was going on.
So I have a question about this because in layman's terms, people are saying Stu flipped on Jen. And is that a good thing to say? Would that be an accurate statement? He flipped?
Absolutely, he flipped.
What does he get out of doing that?
Well, he gets the benefit of a cooperation motion. By the way, Sharrell, I had to fly to my DC office, so I got a little bit of a plane cold, but I would never cancel on you. So
no, you're fine. You're good.
Yeah. So if I have to blow my nose, it's because of the flight. I was working too many hours. I gave myself a little plane cold. So the what I was going to tell you is yeah, he flipped. And so what you get for flipping is you get the government, if they like the way you testify and you testify truthfully in their sole discretion, they can file a departure motion to go below the sentencing guidelines. And that's a critical motion by the defendants.
So we don't know this. This is just, I'm sorry, Freddie. Now I'm just picking his brain. We don't know this for sure, but would it be safe to say most likely Jen Shah is pissed?
Oh my God, she's got to be pissed. My colleague Barry Kamen wants me to explain a 5K 1.1 letter. That's a letter. It's a departure motion. They let the judge know the person testified truthfully, and we think that the sentence should go down in time, so by different levels. So that's how they do it in the federal court. So it's a provision of the sentencing guidelines that allow this departure. It's called a 5K 1.1. But Barry doesn't know because he doesn't do a lot of YouTubes. When you start talking numbers, everybody gets sleepy. So I try to keep the concepts broad. But basically, when you snitch, you get a big reward as long as you're truthful and the government wants to do something for you. So Jen, who's played this wrong at every level, basically now is seeing that they got cooperators from the boiler rooms. They have the victims, and Stuart pled to over 10 victims over 50 years of age. He pled to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and lying to the FTC and committing perjury. So the government threw it all out there. Here's our cooperator. He's a liar. He's a crook. But you know why he's a great witness? This is why they're going to tell the jury in closing argument, because he knows who another crook is. Ooh. He knows who he created Wyoming companies to keep the owner's secret. You know why he's such a good crook? Because he knows the biggest crook in this courtroom, and she's sitting right over there. Her name is Jen Shah, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we have to recruit people like Stuart Smith. We don't find them at the temple or the church. We have to find them in the boiler rooms. And so her assistant was a crook, and that's who we utilize to get information. And he knew what was going on, and he took responsibility for it long before they met up to 2021. So that's why that's what they're going to say. And Stuart's flipping on her is a devastating witness because it's hard to cross-examine your assistant. I mean, Sharrell, how many assistants do you have? 4 or 5?
Oh, 4.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't have an assistant. You know why? Because I don't want someone to flip on me. So that's why I've never had an assistant. I won't have anybody work for me unless they're a lawyer. Do you know why? Because there's a privilege. Just so you guys know that. I don't like assistants because they flip. And if they get mad, they'll make up stuff. Now, I'm kidding. If I do use contract assistants, but in all seriousness, this is the worst type of flipper is your personal assistant, Stuart. The worst. And Jen had 2. So it's not like all of her assistants flipped on her, but he had a history of committing telemarketing fraud.
Well,
last question, Freddie, because I'm just wondering. I get this question almost every day, Ronald.
What?
Do you think, and we don't know for sure, that Sharif, Jen Shah husband, had some suspicion as to what was going on?
Well, it's funny. I did an Instagram live with a reporter from Salt Lake only because I knew it was a big story there, and I felt like maybe that local market needed to hear from an outsider. And the viewers were thinking, he's a public figure because he's on the football team there. But I mean, this guy's never been involved in running her business, and he's just raising the kids. And I don't think it's fair to attack him. I mean, his spouse got in trouble. He's never put himself out there. So just because you're married to someone and they break the law doesn't mean you're guilty. And so I've never said anything about him because he's not a target of the investigation. I've always respected his anonymity. So I actually never talked about him because I could only imagine what it's like with you're trying to raise kids and then your spouse is a big mouth on TV, puts stupid stuff like free Jen Shah, creates controversy because that's what she's getting paid to do. And then you're just some guy coaching football, raising kids, and now your wife's indicted. To me, I feel bad for him. And if he's guilty of something, it'll come out and then I'll feel less bad. But I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I mean, you can't sometimes pick who you marry or have kids with. Right. Maybe, she wasn't like that when he first met him. Maybe one day she said, I want to be on the Housewives and didn't get the talk about why would you ever want to do that to yourself? So who knows? I can't figure it out really, but I've never read any evidence in the case file that suggests that he has culpability in the telemarketing. I mean, he has a job, don't forget. He's an accomplished professional. Right. So why attack him? I mean, that's not really fair. And I have a powerful platform, so I just never mention him because he's not on the TV. He's not a housewife or a house spouse, and he's not charged with a crime. So I don't ever talk about people that are private people. That's not the right thing to do.
That's good. Go ahead, Freddie.
So with Stuart, so if he in court today has sort of been flipping on Jen Shah and he's seems to be cooperating with the court, what type of sentence could we potentially be looking
Well, what he pled to, it was a 70-year cap. He's looking at time. It's not like he's going to get no time. That was a heavy duty, what's called superseding information, which was a charging document prepared by the prosecutor. So it wasn't a grand jury filing. So he's pled to some heavy charges. Not to digress, but Ricky Starr must have came late because he's still asking if I flip to the Erika Jane side. And I would just say, Ricky, rewind the tape.
Rewind.
It'll be really clear. No one's flipped, never met her. I represent only people opposing her, but just rewind. I don't want you to miss it. So going back to what he could get. I mean, if he gets 36 months, that would be a very good result for him. Jen's looking at 10 to 14 years. I mean, she doesn't realize, she's in trouble. That's all I could tell you, in big trouble. And I don't know why she wants to rush to trial. It's not like they give you milk and cookies when you get there. Usually as the lawyer, you want to avoid trial for your clients, especially that can't sit still.
Do you think that sentence could be shortened? And we've seen in the court documents that obviously that Jen was, the top of the chain for this alleged telemarketing scam. and allegedly this whole scheme benefited from $5 million. Is there any evidence that potentially more money has been earned? And if so, where has all this money been put?
Well, first of all, if you look at the CHIO sentencing document I posted on my Twitter feed earlier today, it showed they seized $1.4 million in cash, and he had to forfeit that as part of it. That was the paraplegic, and the judge gave him time served. But there's a lot of money in cash rolling around because they were charged with currency violations, meaning they would take money out of the bank and do transactions to avoid the reporting. So it's hard to say how much is floating around, but of course, the fraud is millions and millions of dollars.
Wow.
One of your funny viewers, Linda Samuels, asked, "Why is Ronald paying for Erika's lawyer allegedly?" I mean, again, rewind the tape. For 100 million reasons, most of them economical, I would never pay for Erika's lawyer. A benefactor is paying for her lawyer, and I'm not going to tell you who it is. I just need to see the accounting in my other case to make sure that he's not giving her back her money. And I won't call anybody out on your feed unless they make, kind of almost borderline crazy statements like, why would opposing counsel pay for the other opposing counsel? I mean, that would be the scandal of all scandals. That never happens. I don't pay for my adversary's counsel. But anyway, let's get back to Jen Shah.
So to Jen Shah, and I know this is a question that the next two questions I know are questions that you, Sharrell, want to know about, and many of the viewers of Sharrell's world have messaged me about that want to know is that could more information be revealed about the scheme, such as people who may have invested in her business, or businesses that Jen has invested in with these alleged stolen funds?
Well, yeah, Freddie, they're not technically stolen. They're fraudulently procured. There's a little difference. She didn't steal them. She duped people into releasing funds. I mean, what she did, so you understand, is these are people that are already susceptible to work at home programs. And I've always hated these programs because it's like people sitting at home that don't really want to work, but they're not working for some other reason. And then they see a flashy ad and then they say, okay, I want to work, and then they pay like $100. Then what happens is that list was then sold to like a very slick salesperson that would then call these people up and upcharge them to more expensive, bogus services. And then they'd be spending more money that they didn't have for these bogus work at home programs. And this was a very sophisticated hustle. So if the money that was fraudulently procured was then traced to one of her businesses, then those businesses would be subject to forfeiture or restitution. But that's down the road. Stuart's going to have to start paying that now, but it's hard to say. I think Jen's going to be broke by the time this is done, because she's not the Girardis. She's not a Hilton. I mean, you're talking about Salt Lake City, okay? Her house was a couple $100,000 that she just sold last year, and now she's renting. It's not like she's pulling big equity out of this. So I don't see, and she made a huge mistake and hired an expensive Washington, D.C., New York law firm in the beginning. And they must have hit her for $250,000 to $500,000 in fees. Then she hired a solo out of, I think, New Jersey, who's now her lawyer. And that's where we're at. And they probably charged her a flat rate for this trial. But I don't think Jen has the resources to do anything. By the time they're done, she's going to be in custody.
Wow.
Yeah. And then another big question that people wanted to know about, and I know you sort of talked about this a bit on Twitter today. One of Jen's many assistants, Murillo Bueno, he was alleged to have stolen a bag from a fellow cast member of Jen's and other items from another of Jen's co-stars, allegedly. What could this, if this evidence is true, could this be used against Jen in this court case?
Of course, if it's related to the facts in this case, if there's a connection, what part are you sort of focusing on that you think is connected?
So this assistant, so Murillo Bueno, he worked allegedly with Jen and a co-star of hers, and allegedly he stole from two of Jen's co-stars. If that evidence is true, because Murillo Bueno has gone on to Instagram, he's claimed that this thing in being in Meredith's shop has been doctored and it's all lies. With that and with Heather, if he's stolen from Meredith and Heather, and there's evidence that that's true, could that information of, if it's true, be used in this Jen Shah case of frauding elderly and vulnerable victims in this telemarketing case?
If they can connect a nexus to him being directed by Jen personally. But the issue really is, I don't think, and again, I'm not the prosecutor, but they have a good case. I mean, I've read all the filings. I don't think they need to muck it up with TV stuff. I mean, if it was talked about on TV, I think they're going to avoid it because it just gets messy. And this case isn't messy. It's a very common type of Southern District of New York prosecution against crooked boiler rooms that are in the mountain states, because there's a lot of space in these mountain states and the salespeople don't have heavy accents. So the victims don't feel like it's some guy calling from India saying that they're the IRS. I don't know if you ever get those calls. They're the IRS or Social Security, and you don't believe it because they barely could pronounce it. But these are sophisticated, people that are trained, and that's why there's a high concentration of these cases coming out of the mountain states, and they prey on a lot of retirees in the New York area and in the Florida area. So that's sort of how this works from a geographical standpoint.
Okay, Ronald, did you have any other questions, Freddie? I got to start wrapping it up.
No, I'm good with all my questions. Did you have any?
No, I have a statement. I want to say I love how you came on, Ronald, and clear. I like your style. You don't play around, and you've been true to your word. I don't know if you remember when you first came on the show, you said you were going to keep everything in layman's terms so us non-lawyers understand what's going on. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your Twitter account keeping us updated. I had no idea at the time it was going to extend and Bravo was going to hire another person that's going to be going through things, aka Jen Shah. So now are you going to help us with that too? Are you going to follow her? Okay.
Oh, I followed her the first day that she got arrested. And then what happened was I was on, the first day she got arrested, I was already working on another show for the Girardis. But then when I got appointed, I had to stop doing anything with that show because I was now in an official capacity, and these shows don't want people that are actually in the show or in the official capacity. Then with Jen Shah, because of my knowledge and participation, I got invited to do that one. And then apparently you said you saw me. We'll find out. Not making any comments. Don't know. I hope so, but don't know. And I want everybody to know I've been cut from more broadcasts than I've been on broadcast, and I've been on a hell of a lot of broadcasts. It is part of the nature. You don't get mad if the editor leaves you on the broadcast floor. That is the cardinal rule of going on shows. If you get cut, you just take it like a gentleman, and you're available for the next one, and you have a nice demeanor, and they invite you to the next one. You don't always get cut, but you can't get mad at the editor that's directing the piece if they don't want you on there, because the piece sometimes changes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of experience in this area. And again, I like doing it because I do try to break it down for the viewers on these shows, which is not going to be your viewers. It's going to be a different set of viewers that pay for programming, maybe a little older, I think. They're not as internet savvy. I mean, America has so many different types of people that listen to things, and I like to saturate different areas. And again, if you ask me what has been the joy of 30 years of practicing law, it's talking to everybody, not for any other reason than I love educating people. You know, I've taught at UCLA, I've taught law school, I've lectured to high school classes. Other people don't always know this, but I get DMs, and I just did University of Chicago last week.
Wow.
I'm a very academic person. You know, I have a degree from UCLA, went to business school, went to law school at other schools. I mean, I like academics, and I like talking to people and giving them knowledge so they understand what's going on, so they don't get victimized. And I love attacking crooked lawyers because I'm not afraid if they want to attack me back. That's how it works. So I appreciate, you know, when you guys had me on originally, and I'm glad that the week ended that last week's where I wasn't on and all those people were talking. I tried to take deep breaths knowing I was coming on today so we can clear it all up. But again,
I love it.
If anyone ever has any questions about me, all you got to do is DM me, and I answer them. I'm not defensive, but it'd be better to start a question with, why were you fired, instead of, hey, tell me what happened. There's a nicer way to talk to people. Don't assume or conclude, or, you know, am I working for Jen Shah? I mean, instead of making a leading question, maybe just ask a more polite question, because I'm going to answer it. It's like, I know what I do. I'm a lawyer. I think about what I do. I don't just go off the deep end.
And
because quickly before we end, you're expanding in the social media department. For those of you that aren't following Ronald, you can follow him on Twitter at Ronald Richards, where he's giving updates on Erika, Jen, Mohammed Hadid, and many other big cases. Ronald is also now on Instagram, and your attorney Ronald Richards there, I believe.
Yep, attorney Ronald Richards. And my office runs that, a best person ever on it, and they're in charge of it. I sometimes jump on there, but I'm told to get off a lot because, you know, just stick to my Twitter. But once in a while, I do look at all of them, because again, sometimes there's a legal question, and I just want to give people the answer. And I'm not offended if you don't understand it or you need a follow-up, because I don't expect you to have 30 years of knowledge in many trials and many cases across the country, and it's okay. But just at least let me give you my side of the story. You don't need to always believe what I'm saying, but at least listen to my position. And if you don't agree with it, that's okay. I don't take offense to anything. And so Sharrell, you know, there's a lot we got to cover in the next few weeks. There's going to be a lot going on as we get to the holidays, and I may have to do a show even when I'm out of town somewhere on a break. But when material things happen, Freddie, he always gets a hold of me, and I want to make sure we stay with this pathway now that I don't have to. I have a little bit more time to cover some of these things, and of course, we should talk about the Shah shocker right after it airs next week, because there may be positions on there, statements of someone you know. I don't know. Find out.
That's good.
You know, and there'll be other things, and there's a lot of other interesting things coming out that we're covering. I like to cover the things that are interesting in my arena, and we'll see where it goes. And I'll cover the contempt hearing. We'll explain that, and I appreciate the format. It's a great format you guys have, and I always feel very comfortable, like I'm just talking to friends. And I appreciated your giving me the benefit of the doubt. It's nice that people have confidence in you as a person, and I will never breach that confidence or your trust in my representations, which means a lot to me. If I ever lost that trust from you, Sharrell, I would honestly be devastated. If you one day said, I felt like Ronald didn't give me the straight story, because that's just not me. And I came on today just to clear up one other funny thing that I see people post, and then we could cut it. A lot of times you want to interview me if I'm driving somewhere or I haven't put on a suit or a jacket, and so I go without the video because I get tired sometimes, so my hair's not brushed. I just want to do an audio. It's easier. But today I had court, and I knew we were going to be on, and I wanted everyone to see my eyes, for you to look at me, because you raised such compelling concerns that I felt like I was already dressed. I had my Supreme Court lapel pin on. I'm ready to go today. So that's why we did a video. I'm happy to always do a video if it's scheduled, but because I don't want to always worry about getting dressed and doing things, I'm like everybody else in the pandemic. I hit the audio and do the hit, if that makes sense to you. I mean, you always look great, but I don't have a glam squad like you.
Oh my God.
Freddie's casual, but I'm a lawyer. I can't come on in a t-shirt.
I don't have $45,000 a month.
Yeah, Freddie, I can't come on in a polo. I'm a lawyer. I have to have a collared shirt, a polo, and a lapel pin, or at least a sport coat, or they're going to say, "Who is that slacker?" So that's the truth. That's why I don't have the video sometimes, because people want to do these things at 8 a.m, and I'm not going to get all dressed up for just an audio when I can just do the audio. But if anyone ever really thinks I need to be on, you got the video. Now we could let them know.
You're great, Ronald. You have never turned us down for an interview. We appreciate that. We are extremely loyal to you too. And Freddie really loves you.
All right. Love you guys too.
Yeah, I'm
a lot of love here. I will see you guys soon.
All right. And, thank you so much, Ronald, for coming on.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Freddie, that was good. You got to respect a man that comes on, addresses the rumors, looks you in the eye, and tells the truth. Most of the time, these lawyers, he's a top attorney, a top Beverly Hills attorney. Most of the time, they're busy. He's never turned us down. That was great.
Exactly. And I think this is what we've got, why we have loyalty to him. He's always honest to us, and he just says it how it is.
Yeah.
And I've personally been happy with how he's answered the questions that we both asked him.
He was direct today. He said, I did not flip sides. I did not made a deal with Erika Girardi. And we know we work in the gossip business. These rumors it starts really small, probably someone you don't even think about, and it just rolls into something really big. And you got to respect the man for coming on and confronting them and saying that's not true. So that's good.
Exactly.
Love you, Freddie. That was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Love you too.
All right. All right, you guys. Thank you. That was a cool interview. If you missed it, rewind, because if you had any doubt about him getting fired or him working with Erika, he will tell you in a definite way that's not true. So anyway, we'll be back. He said he wants to come back after the Jen Shah documentary, which he couldn't confirm that he was on it, but I seen him. He was on it. So it's going to be great. All right, Freddie, let's say bye on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye, guys.
Bye.